Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This is my first attempt at the Drash at the young age of 66, so bear with me. Last week I asked Rabbi if there were usually themes in the different scriptures, just trying to get a little heads up, and he, being a great teacher, said sometimes there are and sometimes there aren't. So on that, as I began to read all the scriptures, it came to me pretty quickly that there is at least one theme in these scriptures. And reading, starting in Deuteronomy, basically after God has freed his people from 400 years of slavery and oppression in Egypt, after all God has done, signs and wonders and miracles, his people rebelled against the command of Adonai. After he fought for them in Egypt, they grumbled and they murmured, and they sinned against the Lord. And then they refused to go in and take the land that he had promised them. He became angry at that generation, and he told them that they would not see the good land that he swore to give to their fathers. Only two would, Caleb and Joshua. They were told to take one man from each tribe and go into the land and basically to spy and see what it would be like. They came back, and they said they brought fruit, and they said the land was good that the Lord has given us, but we cannot defeat them. They're giants, and we would lose to them if we fought them. And this made God angry. So their punishment was all from that generation would wander in the wilderness, in the desert, and they would not see the land. They would not enter into the promised land until all that had sinned were gone. Then, at that time, the new generation would enter and take the land as God had promised. The theme, I believe, was to obey God, or he will be strong with you. He will be stern with you. He will be stern with us. He will not forsake us. However, he will discipline his people. In Isaiah, once again, after God has raised them up, Isaiah speaks of the people rebelling against God. They're called a sinful nation, a people weighed down with iniquity, and the offspring of evildoers who have abandoned Adonai. They have despised Israel's Holy One and turned backwards. However, unless Adonai Tzavaot, the Lord of hosts, had left us a remnant, we would have been as Sodom. We would have been as Gomorrah. We would have been destroyed. It says the Lord despised our burnt offerings, the blood of animals, the iniquity of solemn assembly. It reminded me as a young person growing up in the synagogue around Yom Kippur. At the end of Yom Kippur, they would sound the shofar, and everybody would go eat or go home and eat. And it was almost as though everybody said, great, we got the sins of the year behind us, we're clean, now we're free to go out and do it again. And I believe these are the iniquity, that's the iniquity of solemn assemblies. And yet, if we wash ourselves clean, if we cease to do evil, we will enjoy the good of the land because of God's love for us and his forgiveness. And in Acts, the Apostle Stephen spoke of us as a stiff-necked people, uncircumcised of heart and ears. And he asked, which of the prophets did your fathers not persecute? For this he was stoned and he died. And yet out of this, Saul, who was the chief among the persecutors of the Jewish believers, was selected by God to be used. And he was humbled and he was knocked down. He was blinded. And in this, I think, when he couldn't see, his mind was forced to come to terms with what was going on. And when he saw what God was doing and that he'd sent his son into the world, he was sent out to redeem the people and to be a redeemer himself. So throughout these scriptures, I believe there is a theme. God's people turning from him, sinning, we rebel, and yet God so loves us. He disciplines us sternly. However, he never abandons his people. In the TLV introduction before the book of Deuteronomy, it says, nowhere does God speak of divorcing his people on the grounds of our infidelity. His discipline may lead to us being small in numbers, scattered and exiled among the nations, and forced to serve foreign gods. However, he will not abandon us. This should give us great hope. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.